Chapter 1: Perception and Beliefs. Perception is everything. Did you ever wonder whether life has a purpose? What about your own life? Also, do you think that your belief system influences your ideas about purpose? If so, how? Ponder a while about these questions and write your answers down below on a printout of this page or in a notebook. My purpose, or larger goal, in life is. My beliefs influence my view on life as follows. The reason I ask these questions is to start you on a journey of investigating your perception of life, your belief system. What did your parents, school, church, friends, and others tell or teach you about the world we live in? What was an implicit or hidden message that you got from them? What did they teach you about religion, spirituality, death, love, work? Write your answers down below. My parents, school, church, friends, media told me about religion/spirituality. About life and death, they told me this. About love. About study and work. We will now dive into the world of consciousness and perception, with its many aspects, and start developing a view of things based on the ancient wisdom traditions. Point 1: True wisdom never ages. It also incorporates new insights when circumstances change. So, universal principles never change, but the application of insights is adapted to specific situations as these invoke the necessary intuitions. Intuition is the capacity to grasp a situation as a whole, in all its aspects. The intellect then can work out plans of action to be dynamically adapted when necessary. The first thing to do now is to investigate belief systems. Belief systems, the heritage of humankind. Philosophically speaking, one can divide belief systems in two great categories: materialistic versus spiritual belief systems, or views on life. The materialistic view entails the belief that matter is all there is. Consciousness is seen as a byproduct of matter, the mysterious something that is produced by the neural networks in one's brain. There is no good explanation of phenomena such as telepathy, clairvoyance, near-death experience, out-of-body experiences, encounters with angels, origin of life, meaning of life, deep spiritual or mystic experiences, and so on. In fact, such a view has little to offer to humanity but shallow pleasure, addictions, greed, ecocide, promises of a techno-paradise. Yet many people live in despair. One may wonder why so many people hold this view. One might counter-argue that technology has brought us some affluence, at least in post-industrial countries. True, but at what cost? The combination of a wrong monetary system, based on eternal economic growth, with a neglect of ecological considerations, has brought the destruction of life on Earth ever closer to us. The spiritual view of life involves the belief that consciousness precedes manifestation. It builds the vehicles it needs for its manifestation out of primordial elements. To be more precise, consciousness, substance, and life are three aspects of the same thing or being. Our present languages have no words to describe such triune entities. Philosophers have fallen into the trap of separating consciousness from substance. They have created separate categories where such a separation should not be made. René Descartes was one of those philosophers who made this colossal mistake. Note that the so-called mind-body problem does not exist in the spiritual vision I describe in this book. Since everything is an expression of consciousness, substance, life, a triunity, it is only a matter of the degree of evolution of beings and the cooperation of apparently opposing forces or energies responsible for manifestation. The whole universe is a manifestation of one life that penetrates all, a bit like an ocean that contains countless water droplets. It has a substantial side as well as a consciousness aspect. Much more about this, such as fractality and nested systems, can be found in the bibliography in the chapter on the 7 axioms and in Appendix A. The spiritual or holistic view of matter and consciousness is consistent with the evidence found by Dr. Ian McGilchrist, see reference to some of his books above. This view understands duality and complementarity. It argues that opposites can be reconciled and often work together harmoniously. An example is the two hemispheres of the brain. While the left hemisphere is more involved in rules, static images, rigid yes-no answers to questions, the right hemisphere works more holistically. It sees the gestalt, or the whole of a situation or person. The reader is Encouraged to explore the works of McGilchrist to increase his or her understanding of the workings of the brain, or rather, the brain-mind. The spiritual or holistic view of matter and consciousness is consistent with the evidence found by Dr. Ian McGilchrist, see reference to some of his books above. This view understands duality and complementarity. It argues that opposites can be reconciled and often work together harmoniously. An example is the two hemispheres of the brain. While the left hemisphere is more involved in rules, static images, rigid yes-no answers to questions, the right hemisphere works more holistically. It understands context and flow. The whole universe is a manifestation of one life that pervades everything, a bit like an ocean containing countless drops of water. It has both a substantial side and a consciousness aspect. More information about the spiritual vision, in addition to this book, can be found in my ebook Mysteries of the Human Mind, especially the section on Wittgen's Gnosis, also available as a separate file. In that book I describe the reification of concepts, that is, the making of a concept into a thing. Taking a metaphor literally is also an example of this. That's something the left hemisphere likes to do, in addition to endlessly abstracting and generalizing, leaving only inanimate objects where there were once living subjects. The left hemisphere is involved in representations, rather than presentations, which are more of a right hemisphere activity. The left hemisphere deals very poorly with context. It has a narrow focus, and seems to be adapted for the use of tools. As the saying goes, the map is not the territory. The map leaves out many details of the terrain. It can be useful, but should not be confused with reality. This reminds me of dominant left-brain scientists who cling to their models of reality even when faced with massive evidence pointing to serious flaws in their models. Rather than modifying these models, such scientists choose to ignore reality and stick with their beloved models. The left hemisphere likes closed systems, with internal consistency. So it's very helpful to ignore or downplay evidence that conflicts with their models. The kinds of questions that are asked are determined by the presuppositions of scientists, which are not often made explicit or acknowledged. This observation is a good introduction to the next section. One sees what one believes to be true. The parable of the snake and the rope. In the Indian Upanishads there is a nice story about a boy who walks in his village at dusk and suddenly sees a snake. He starts shouting, "Snake! Snake!" After a while he looks closer and realizes that it is a coiled piece of rope where he nearly trampled upon. This is a perfect example of how our perceptions are colored and influenced by our beliefs about ourselves and the world. If one believes that others can't be trusted, one will see deceit everywhere. It is a self-fulfilling thing. One projects one's opinions and beliefs on situations one encounters. Perception and beliefs act like a filter on one's consciousness, blocking a lot of valuable information from our awareness. So, examine your beliefs carefully. Where did you get your ideas about society, education, work, relationships? From the media? From your parents or friends? From experience? Clear perception is not easy to attain. It requires a cleansing of the mind. More about that in Chapter 2, where some techniques and methods are given to set the mind on a path of clear perception and thinking. Lastly, this parable points to the truth or reality that consciousness assigns to its perceptions. From the https://www.britannica.com/biography/Michael Oakeshott #ref11859550 Britannica Encyclopedia. Objective idealism, which argues, against materialism, that our experience of reality is mediated by thought while also rejecting the notion that reality is solely subjective and thus relative, subjective idealism. The interested reader is also referred to the philosopher Schelling, whose philosophy incorporates the idea of objective idealism. Values guide us in our thoughts and beliefs. It will not come as a great surprise that values exercise a great influence on our life. After all, values play a role as diverse as to the importance of success, having good relationships, making money, looking attractive to the other sex, but also in ethical issues and moral decisions and developing virtues. One attaches value to things, persons, achievements. We give meaning to our sense impressions, filtered through our belief system. Which are your values? A short questionnaire. A quick way to discover your values is to ask yourself the following questions. What do I want or expect from a life partner? What do I like to do most of my time, paid or unpaid? What kind of work would I like to do best? How do I spend my money? What kind of hobbies do I have? Do I like to work with people? Do I like to do research? Work in nature? Care for children? Repair cars? Why? Try to get an overview of your most important values. Make a note on this page. It may pay off to revisit your notes some years later to see whether you have shifted your values in some respect. Psychocybernetics. Lately, I have been listening to the audiobook Psychocybernetics by Maxwell Meltz. It is published by Penguin Random House Audio. I found it on Audiobooks.com. Matt Fury, president of the Psychocybernetics Foundation, gives a commentary in the audio. I was pleasantly surprised to recognize many points of agreement with my own writings, which give a spiritual form of psychocybernetics. Some highlights from the first half hour of the audiobook, paraphrased, are the following. 1. Work with visualization and mental imagery. 2. The self-image and success. 3. The theater of the mind. 4. The goal-directed feature of the brain mind. The self-image is defined in the audio book as the individual's mental and spiritual concept or picture of himself. It is the real key to human personality and behavior. See Chapter 1. Meltz/Fury state that a mental blueprint in the subconscious mind controls our future. If one gets stuck in the past and only remembers one's failures, then this is a sign of a poor self-image. The advice is to relive your best memories, picture what you want and feel you can have it and do have it. Do this on a daily basis. Of course, you also have to set goals for yourself. In positive psychology, Seligman and NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, there are helpful exercises as well to get on a positive track. In the theater of the mind, remember, relive your best memories, victories, successes, happiest times, anchoring, a NLP technique. Then comes an especially interesting point. Imagine and feel achieving a goal in the future, but experiencing it now, almost like a memory of an accomplished goal. That corresponds with an exercise I mention in my article on Roberto Assagioli, that is included in Chapter 6. You can be happy before you reach your goals. My comment: when you see life as a process, you can enjoy the moment and focus on the here and now. The brain mind is goal-directed. It is teleological. This is not mystical at all. Cybernetics, science of steering and feedback, grew out of the programmed, goal-directed behavior of mechanical systems in and shortly after World War II. Anti-aircraft missiles needed to be more effective in downing airplanes. So, feedback control was implemented in the machines. Purposeful behavior of machines was studied and optimized. The idea of teleology, or goal-directedness, was banned from science in the 19th century. It is still controversial, I believe, but will be the accepted wisdom of future times. Scientists are just humans, most of the time limited by a very narrow education and suffering from tunnel vision. History shows this all the time. The greatest minds of science always realized this. No one has ever been able to explain how exactly a person is able to pick up a pen from a table. How does the thought of the pen in your hand materialize in the action to accomplish this fact? Nobody knows exactly. We must be humble in this regard. Back to the audio, self-image is the key to human personality and human behavior. Change the self-image and change the personality and the behavior. The self-image is changed for better or worse, not by intellect alone or by intellectual knowledge alone, but by experiencing. Our present state of self-confidence and poise is the result of our experiences. Indeed, and the exercises given here and in Chapter 2 can help one to organize one's life and orientate it in a more positive direction. Use creative experiencing to create a better self-image. This is further explained in Chapter 2, where a visualization technique is given to transform negative thoughts. Successes help build our self-confidence, and from failures we can learn a lot. So, be flexible and have an open mind. Self acceptance is stimulated by the recognition that we form an integral part of the universe. Much more about that in the next chapter and Appendix A, where the capabilities of the human being are discussed in light of the experience and knowledge of the great sages of all time. Lastly, remember your successes, however small or great, and let these inspire you to go on with the challenges you face in your daily life.